So we are presenting Aparato Second Life Treatment workshop, and before doing that, I have to tell you a short turning point for most of us, the emotions and thoughts we had after the feeling of not having a state which could contain a national project made us to react. We felt called to think deeply about what kind of country we wanted. In doing so, many projects and ideas were created, like Proyecto Abrigo, and new kinds of works and trade arose which covered different sorts of matter, but that I'm sure were born from the same need. By creating this project, I found a way to make politics. Meaning by that, politics in terms of commitment with the community, the kind of contribution a citizen can make to her country. So, Proyecto Abrigo, from the very beginning, had considered technology as an object of exploration. We converted technology in a question with many possible answers. That's the kind of approach that was interesting for us to follow. And by working with its processes, languages, mechanisms, circuits, and interfaces, just to mention some of the material and abstract fields that have place in a modern machine, in order to connect it with its past, we developed a bunch of strategies to make it legible to those who had no link with the new dimension that the concept of technology carries. Because, as I can see it, what is in the heart of digital divide is not only a lack of access, but also a lack of sense. For many years, technology was presented as the last invent, something you had to have to get to the next level in your life, and not like the sequence built along the centuries that summarizes what we call technology at the present time. So it was a natural fact that those who couldn't access to it because of their incomes or educational levels were not called to be part of it. And it sounds like a solved issue, but it is not yet in South American countries like Argentina, where we come from. And it is an issue because what digital divide places on the table is also a lack of equality. On the grounds of advancement, there was a gap made of misinformation that took the relevance of a political decision. So we took the challenge of creating a program that would bring the community to the relationship between knitting or fabric and technology. The objective was to develop the skill of knitting to support the growth of a creative economy, and at the same time make it known that the mechanized looms are the ancestors of the first computers. And the conceptual links with the fabric extend the notions of connectivity and network and pixel and point and lace and link, to mention some of the known relationships that have been recently updated. We constructed a path from the affectivity of knitting as expression of memory and identity to the unknown and feared digital world. So going back, or should I say forward, to Magnetismo, reuse program of technological and industrial discards, named so because magnetism is a fascinating phenomenon present in nature, animals, as well as in electronic devices. This program began a few years ago when some of the women of the project began to play with a resistor. As you know, it is a tiny object made of carbon and other resistive elements to reduce the electric current flowing. So in our hands, the resistor became a ring. And later, a capacitor was part of the pin. And then it happened with many other components. So we thought if we can appreciate aesthetics in digital art, or we can accept the beauty of the code, why can't we extend it to each part of the computer? So That's what we have been doing so far. Meanwhile, as the project was growing and people began to be interested in our work, and our space was bigger and we had funds to continue working, our place became a museum and a studio and a lecture room. Just like our dream, you can learn and teach and research and produce in our place like all in one. And to make it real, we collected things from different places. In the beginning, friends and family donated us old machines, wools, all kind of stuff. Then people did too. So at some point, we had an issue there because the question about what to do with things, I made it extensive to the university authorities and proposed formalizing magnetismo, something that we began to do, as I told you before, a few years ago. So this program, which is a reuse program of technological and industrial discards, as I told you before, I would like to tell you its goals. It returned to the field of use that obsolete technology that is discarded within the university to create new useful objects or artistic ones. To develop environmental impact studies on each of the components of the e-waste. To specify what kind of conditions are necessary to make good use of them. Distinguish what of its components can be used in the realization of new objects and which is the final disposal for the toxic ones. Systematizes reuse techniques to spread its practice among everybody to promote attitudes that will enhance the commitment to the environment. It is a goal also to publish a technological disarmament handbook for both institutions and people who want to know how to deal with e-waste. And of course work with all people and institutions that are consubstantiated with its goals. As you know, e-waste include all electrical and electronic equipment that is approaching the end of their useful life and become trash. So it is anything that plugs, which receives electricity, like appliances, computers, we all have of any kind in our homes. Many of these products can be reused or recycled or restored. It is currently estimated that at least there is 20 to 50 million e-waste worldwide annually, and it is almost 8% of solid urban waste. It is the type of waste that has the highest growth rate in the world, increased 3 times faster than average urban ones. And this is mostly because of the design for the dump, which produce large volumes of waste. Now, where is the dump for which it was designed? Again, when the object meets its cycle, who will deal with it? Are the same who were not able to access at the first time when it was brand new? In countries where governments do not manage e-waste yet, we as citizens become domestic operators. However, such position doesn't come with a handbook that tells you what to do with it, or a map that tells you where is the famous dump. So Magnetismo seeks to reach homes of our community with the same ideas through Aparato Second Life equipment workshops. To achieve this, we share the riches of current research on environment impact by students and professors at the career of environmental engineering within the university. We spread the experience in disarming electronic devices and its documentation with scholars and professors in the career of electronic arts and Proyecto Abrigo work on. And we stimulate creative processes, reusing that technological discards for new useful objects or pieces of art. So by the end of the day, they can return home with a new object that carries a new value. So as work in progress, we are writing a technological disarmament handbook that is compiling the knowledge we've gained about it. Now, we would like to share just a part of this handbook to give you some useful information in case you don't have it. So I give you some numbers. In Argentina, the volume of e-waste is about 2.5 kilos per capita per year. 50% of them are collected in our homes, offices, public entities, deposits of industries, while another 40% is buried in dumps more or less designed to capture e-waste pollution, and only 10% enter into formal or informal schemes of waste for waste management. So these electronic devices should not pose a threat to the environment if they were properly treated. In general, most of the materials that contain these devices are reusable and or recyclable. However, it hardly happens. The e-waste is treated as domestic waste, and people end up disposing of it as if it were organic waste like plastic, glass, and paper. So, as you know, e-waste are not biodegradable by any circumstances. So let's talk about the difference between reuse and recycle. Just a very short definition. Recycling is reprocessing a material used to transform it into another identical or similar and can be reused as raw material. While reuse is to use an object or material in its regular function or a different one. So what we are seeing is a bunch of images that show objects made with e-waste. And now we're going to tell you what are those objects made of.
Thank you. For example, if you take a motherboard, which is in any computer, you could find batteries, screws, coolers, button makers, heat dissipators, capacitors, resistors, circuits, transformers, LEDs, diodes, switches, coils, transistors, slots, jumpers, serial ports, USB ports, keyboard, mouse ports, MyLink, VGA ports, and buzzers. That objects are made of plastics, aluminum, iron, carbon, silicon, germanium, lead, ceramics, ferromagnetic materials, gallium arsenide, phosphorus, tin, copper, PVC. Now, what we have to know about this?
A few advices.
Exactly. Plastics and platelets and cables should not catch fire because they release toxic vapor and the rest of the components due to risks to explosions. So they should not be in very humid environment or be introduced into the water because risks of sulfur. About the batteries, you should find an organism that ensures safe disposal or have a fuel earth, which is a physical barrier. And finish, do not place in your mouth any of these components.
Out of this, there's no danger working with this component.
So if you have to disarm a mother, we must consider the following security measures. Find and remove the battery. For general disarmament, always use goggles and gloves. For about the desoldering of components, always use gas masks. The melting of tin releases into the air the substances that constitute it. You are going to need some tools to disarm, like soldering iron, heat gun, desoldering, tweezers, pliers, and screwdrivers.
And we have like 4 steps to tell you how to disarm this matter. It's really quick.
Yes, it's only 4 steps. First, unscrew the tops of the cabinet. Second, unscrew the readers, the motherboard, and hard disk and put screw together. Then you take out the cables. 3. Remove the platelets, hard disk and readers, separating plastics and metal. Take out the platelets for the slots. Finally, we have to dissolve components of platelets. It is important to regain the tin to be reused without melting.
And the time of disarmament for the whole thing is?
It took 8 hours and 30 minutes to disassemble into its parts, including the smallest ones, and we took 350 components.
So it is not that bad. It is not that difficult, and you can do it in a safe way. To end, I find conducive to quote philosopher Gilbert Simondon, who wrote in the 20th century, the major cause of alienation in modern world lies in the ignorance of the machine, which is not an alienation caused by the machine, if not by the disregard of its nature and essence, by its absence from the world of meanings, and its omission of the table of values and concepts that are part of a culture, as he underlined. So technology constitutes potential weapons whose position depends on the ethics and aesthetics of the user. So the monster is not the machine, and it is not even inside. I tend to think that our dilemma as global citizens will be less what to buy and more what to throw away. What it really is or will be trash in a few years. It seems natural in the cycle of life that after production, after a time of production comes a time of reproduction, recreation of creation, birth, a second life. Thank you.
Thank you.